Hey everyone, welcome to another Feel Good conversation with me, Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology. My guest today is Hana Esselink, who is an intuitive soul mentor. She's also psychic and clairvoyant, and she does one-to-one readings with people. And she's also the author of The Vanishing Cafe, a spiritual novel that you can find on Amazon. She's got a background in PR for the public and private sector and charities and individuals and such. She is also working on one-to-one soul mentoring sessions in her spare time. Now, one of the things that she's doing when she's doing that is she's helping people to become unstuck, which feels like quite a good thing to do because a lot of people are a little bit sticky these days. Over the past few years, she's really helped to inspire and elevate people. And I think that's where she gets her Facebook group name from, which is Elevate Your Inner Self. So she has set up her own community online and she does live guided meditations most days to support the members of the group. I think for her, she says it's all about grounding and learning to be in the present. So I'm really, really excited today to bring Hana into the conversation and to tell us all about herself. Okay, so it's my pleasure then to bring Hana on. Hana, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm really good. I've had a mad day, but it's really nice to be here being interviewed by you. Thank you very much.
Well, we had such a lovely energy when we were talking last week. You know, it seemed right that we should collaborate more. So my first question to you then, because I think people are going to want to know this, as founder of Elevate Your Inner Self Facebook page, or is it a group? I can't remember. Can you tell me what inspired you to set it up? What was your main aim?
So yeah, thank you for that question. Elevate Your Inner Self is a Facebook community group. It's a private group. And I set it up during lockdown, at the beginning of lockdown last March. It's really a group because I do readings and other things like that for people. And I just knew that I needed to do something spiritual. And I've always had these really crazy PR jobs, which take your focus off working for yourself. And I really wanted to prove that I could do it. So I set it up, and it's a welcoming community for anybody who wants to know more about spirituality and their own self-development, anything from meditation to prayer to my little lives that I do every other day or every day. I post up something very positive. And it was just to keep people going throughout lockdown. Some of my friends were having quite big challenges immediately with their jobs, you know, by being furloughed and things like that. And my partner as well. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to set up this group and I'm going to see what happens. And I also started to invite people on to talk about various spiritual things, like as yourself, about astrology, and another guy talking about near-death experience that he had and what he saw after he supposedly had this near-death experience, and which he did have. But so yeah, it just became very popular, and the lives are really good, and it's a great way to get your message out to people who are curious about spirituality or developing themselves in some way, or even newbies at meditation, or people who are more advanced at meditation. So yeah, it just kind of developed into a life force of its own, really.
And you're one of the few people that have actually kept it going, because lots of people did set things up at the start of the lockdown, didn't they? And then it slightly fizzled out, but you've carried on. So that's pretty incredible.
I love it. I really love doing it. It makes my day just to spend 5 minutes, and I'm always thinking, what's my message for the day? And I always intuitively, I'm guided to something, like my guides will guide me, and I'm like, oh, that's what I need to talk about today. And it just comes to me spontaneously. I don't script it or anything like that, you know.
That's wonderful. You've already touched on so many of the things I'm going to ask about in this conversation, but really where I want to start is, how did your spiritual journey start, and how has it evolved? Like, was it something that came to you in childhood? You know, what's your journey? What's your hero's journey in spirituality?
I don't know if it's a hero's journey. It's a journey. It's an individual journey, and I think it's different for different people. So my family has mixed heritage. Our background, my family, my mum and my stepdad were actually Muslim, and they both passed away now. So I was brought up in a very strong Muslim household, and it was very black and white and quite strict. But I remember being quite young, and I used to get many books from the library about Jesus and and different different leaders and Buddha, and I just started. I was reading all of that when I was like 7 or 8. I don't even remember. Quite young. No, maybe a bit older, maybe 9 or 10. But but I started to read about it. But I remember being aware and feeling and seeing things in my mum's house. Like I would see, I suppose you'd call it a ghost walking past, and I'd never be afraid. And I was like maybe 12 years old at the time or something. And I always felt like I was protected. And it was a very traumatic childhood in a lot of ways, without getting into too much, information about what it was. But often, if you have that kind of a childhood, you tend to be very sensitive and intuitive. And I don't really know the reasons why that is, but there were things in our household that were totally wrong. The relationship between my mum and my stepdad was breaking down every day. There was lots of arguments. There was some violence. There was trauma. It was a lot of trauma. And I was the oldest, so I was always feeling like I had to take care of my brother and my sister. And it was only years later, like literally 20 years later or something, when I started getting therapy for all this stuff, because I had to, because it was just too much emotionally, that I realized just how much I've been holding on to and how much I felt responsible for them. So this spiritual journey began with a lot of pain. But by the time I was 20, I already had my first spiritual teacher, and she's still in contact with me today. And she's amazing. She's half Portuguese and half Jamaican. And I remember going to see her, and she said to me, "I knew you were coming to see me, and I know it's you because you've got the tattoo of the Red Indian." And I've got a tattoo. Oh, it's this one. Sorry, it looks like that one on there, but it's this one. And I was going, oh, this one. So there, she was my first proper spiritual teacher, and we had many, many sessions together, learning about all sorts of different things, like everything from tarot and psychic readings, everything from negative energies, psychic attack, everything from, does witchcraft exist, how it works. I mean, it was deep. It was really deep. And it was life-changing. I learned a lot about compassion. I was so riddled with my own ego and having this rebellious kind of teenage attitude of, went from when I was younger, and it was still carrying through. But that was a lot of pain and a lot of hardship from having to deal with my mother and her breakdown and her depression, and my stepdad, and just not really knowing who I was. And I mean, I left home when I was 17, and I stayed with a Christian lady and her little children, and they're still my friends actually. And I remember being so confused that first week I was there, thinking, who the hell am I? I really strongly felt this pull of my culture kind of back there, but I'd stepped out of that. And it was a very brave move, because for someone like myself, I should have had an arranged marriage, and I was going down that track, and I was like, no, that's just not me. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it started. And then I've had other teachers since then,
Your life could have been so different, couldn't it? If you'd gone down the arranged marriage route.
Yeah, actually, I was sent abroad after my GCSEs, and they tried to get me married off, and I just had a fit, and I said, no way, I'm not getting married. And I came back, and that was it. My family, they're not one of these really, really strict types that are into honor killings or anything like that, thank God. I mean, that's not my background. We're all mixed, and there's lots of vibrant stuff out there, but they weren't very happy about that. And I just remember feeling like a fish out of water when I was 17. The years from 17 till my mid-20s, I would say, were really, really challenging, growing spiritually, but at the same time, really not investing in that faith that I should have had. But that's much more now, that faith in the divine, that faith in God, that faith in the universe. That is something that takes time, and it tests the best of us,
Doesn't it just?
Yeah.
So when you set up your Elevate Your Inner Self group, for you, for your friends, for the community around you, you're in touch with people from a lot of different backgrounds, and also, you come from, a mix of backgrounds. So how have people from all different backgrounds in your experience been coping with their own spirituality at these times? Because people approach things very differently from their own perspectives. What have you seen occurring over this last year?
It's really funny. I've seen some funny stories. I've seen some horror stories, and I've heard about people committing suicide, which has been awful because of what's happening. They just simply can't cope. I know someone through my teacher, actually, through this lady I'm talking about, who committed suicide, sadly, because he found out what was really happening in the world at this time, right?
Yes.
And it drove him to the edge, and he passed away by killing himself, which is really sad. I've learned so much over this time that I honestly feel it's been a great learning curve for me. And I think a lot of people from whatever background they come from, this is what I've heard, will definitely say that it's been something that they've had time to reflect on their soul. If they've got that, that's something we've ignored so far. We've been rushing around in the world. We've been doing what we had to do, surviving the 9-to-5 grind, doing whatever we've had to do. But for a lot of people who've been depressed before, it's been awful, really awful. I've seen that with a couple of my clients, and they are from a white sort of middle class. One's from a white middle class background. One is from a white underprivileged background, living in Manchester. And then I have a lot of Indian ladies who one of them works for the NHS, and she's been giving me updates like every month as to what's actually happening there. So that's been really insightful.
Sure.
And the pressures to have the jab, she's had to have hers done because of other colleagues saying it and all the rest of it. But I would say that most people are in the same boat, but we're not all swimming to the shore at the same time, if that makes any sense. Most people have wanted to know, when they call me for readings, they wanted to know what's going to happen with their financial situation. And a lot of people are reminiscing about past relationships if they're alone now. So that's really been a biggie, So I've been hoping that on Elevate Your Inner Self, I've been giving people techniques and little tips every day to help them to cope with their emotions. And funnily enough, Louisa, it's really weird. Yesterday on Channel 5, a friend of mine appeared talking about, it was a program about hoarding. And she's an older lady who has come to some of my open meditations when we were allowed to do them before COVID. And she was on that program. She was featured on that program, and I had no idea that her flat was such a mess. And it was like, literally, it's her and her little dog. Her dog's passed away now, because I think they filmed this just before COVID, or just when COVID started. So it's a good year ago. But her dog has since died, and her mother died from dementia. I remember her saying that to me. But this lady's already in her 60s. And oh my God, that flat, I was shocked. I looked at it and I was like, do you mind if I use you as a case study today? And she was like, no, go ahead. You can even use my real name. Very open, lovely, lovely soul, but has been suffering for a very long time from issues of child abuse and things like that. And then never dealt with that and has lots of health issues as a result. Then she lost her mum to dementia. Then she lost her dog. And her flat was bombarded. Every room, I don't know how she walks around. There was even stuff in the cooker, stuff on the cooker, stuff in the washing machine that shouldn't have been in the washing machine. And I was shocked. I was like, my God, I really don't know people. And so I gave her a call today, and I was like, wow, I watched that program. You told me to watch it. And is that how you've been coping in lockdown? And she was like, no, this is how I've been for a long time. It got worse in lockdown. And then she agreed to me that it was actually a need to let go of things, and she can't let go, so she's hoarding all this stuff in her house. And so I've heard so many different stories. I could write a book on it. And honestly, truth is stranger than fiction. It's been a crazy time for so many people, and people from all different backgrounds that have come to talk to me. I was talking to a lady yesterday also from Tanzania, having a lot of challenges going on in her relationship, and her 2 children are suffering as a result. So yeah, lots of crazy stuff. It's been unbelievable, but a real steep learning curve,
I want to ask you a couple of things about hoarding, actually, before we move on to my next questions, because that's kind of piqued my interest. Because one thing I've observed is, well, first of all, I actually have a friend who's a massive hoarder, and I've never been allowed inside her flat, ever. And I know that she has a problem with hoarding because she told me she did. And I can see it's a huge issue for her, and she doesn't know how to get out of it. But one thing that we all seem to do as we get older is hoard more. Not necessarily, I mean, we're always thinning stuff out and always kind of slightly shocked and disgusted by how much we've accumulated over a 4-month or 6-month period. But older people like my parents and Carl's parents, and in fact, anyone like boomer age, they all seem to accumulate a lot and hold on to things. Where do you think that comes from in psyche? Do you think there's a commonality there?
I do. I mean, to be honest, I didn't think much about it until yesterday, and I saw that program, and it was like 11:15, and I was having a shower afterwards, and I just started crying in the shower, and I came out, and my partner was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I never knew that about Bubbles. That's not her real name, and we call her Bubbles, and that's what they call her in the program." And she won't mind me saying that because she said I could use that. But her real name is Joyce. But I said to her today, I said, "Do you think this is all to do with you not being able to let go of some very deep emotional stuff?" And she said, "Absolutely." She says, "Absolutely, that's what this is to do with." And they
Yeah.
had a very sad case on that program. There were 3 different case studies, and there was another one of a lady who was a nurse, and she wouldn't let anybody go in her house. She used to be quite a successful nurse, and when they finally broke into her house, the police, they discovered that she'd died, and it was quite sad. And they had all this sort of it took them 3 days, the whole team, to clear up the whole house, and they found little bits of treasures about her personality, like that she was learning Latin, and there was a Latin notebook, and so she really did try. But what gets people into that state where they suddenly can't cope anymore? I
Mm.
mean, I don't know, honestly, but talking to Bubbles, I would say it is definitely to do with loneliness, not being able to deal with very, very deep emotions. I mean, Bubbles had a whole garage full of her mum's stuff, and after she just was crying on the camera, saying she didn't have the heart to put it away or take it to the skip or give it to charity or anything like that, because she felt that she was getting rid of her mum, even though her mum's already passed away. And so she wasn't ready. She just wasn't ready to do that. And so I think it is a deep emotional issue, actually. And as you know, Louisa, anything that's emotional, unless we learn to deal with that and align ourselves, that's going to linger, and we're not going to manifest what we want either, because we're going to be in this whole sea of emotions, and
Yeah.
and it drowns you. And it does take a lot of courage to face up to that, especially if you've had really serious abuse, if you can't remember anything like that, or if you don't want to remember, or if you've had counseling and it's brought things up, you can halt it because it's too frightening. So, it's up to us to actually, I believe that's where the divine and your angels and your guides can come in to help you, because you're calling on a higher source, a higher energy, to guide you to the right people to actually help you. I do believe it can be resolved, but for some people, it's a very lonely journey. And I remember when I was a press officer at the it was some inquiry into child sexual abuse. I can't remember the exact title of the organization.
Yeah.
Um, but there were so many vitriolic people on that Twitter feed who'd been abused, who were not naturally vitriolic, but they just felt like they had an axe to grind forever. And you read a lot about, I read a lot about people dying in their 70s, and they still hadn't been able to get a job or cope, or, life had sunk them. And I'm not saying that they're all hoarders. I don't know their personal circumstances, but I definitely can speak for Bubbles from yesterday, because she told me, she had a long conversation with me today, and she told me that it was just her inability. She said, every time I tried to clear it up, I just couldn't. I just met this block. I had this big
Yeah.
block, you know.
That rings true, because I know when we're trying to tidy up and get organized, or around the time when we're moving, we're hoping to be moving in the next week or two. I feel very blocked, and I get very depressed if when I all
Oh,
of us see how much I've got, and it really isn't much. We do get rid of stuff, but every time I see junk, it kind of wears me down. It's almost like you're wearing it, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
tough. So given that is kind of heavy, why is it important to keep your vibe high, or your frequency high?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to keep your frequency high. And what I mean by that, just to break that down for people who
Yeah.
might not understand that, is it's important to be in that good frame of mind, because um, the mind has many chambers, actually, Louisa. It really does. I've seen people from nowhere just snap. They haven't mentally been able to cope, and
Yeah.
yet I've seen people who've hit rock bottom be able to climb their way up and take that leap of faith and be able to face real adversity, real challenges. What makes one person different from the other? I honestly don't know. I think I would say it's definitely a case of developing faith and trying to keep your vibration high, right? And when I say keeping your vibration high, there are a number of ways that you can do that. For some people, on a very practical level, it might just be going out for a walk in nature, exploring nature. It's been proven that if you go for a walk anyway, after 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you start to feel much better if you're feeling down. So that is a great way. And I used to go out for a walk all the way in winter. I put on my sheepskin coat. I'd go to the local park, and it really helped, because like you, I was getting down about lockdown. I mean, like a lot of people, I was thinking, when does this crap ever end? And what is the truth about this? What is actually going on out there? Why are we now being told we have to have the vaccination? What's all that about? So very first thing I would say is, whether you are spiritual or you're thinking about spirituality, or even if you're just like very practical, go out for a walk in nature. That is one way to keep your vibration really, really high. That will change anything negative pretty much straight away after 10-15 minutes. Another thing I would say that you can do to keep your vibration high is journaling. It's a great way to get your negative thoughts out onto paper, and once they're out, you can start to get on with your day. You've got rid of them, and on you go. And there's so many different ways. I mean, I could talk about it all day. I would also say prayer. For me, prayer is one of the most amazing ways of keeping your vibration high. And the reason for that is, and you don't have to be religious to pray anyway, you can just it's a really clear spiritual intention that comes from your heart. You can be saying the Lord's Prayer, but you can be saying an ancient Native American prayer. You can be saying what's in your heart, but it's a great way to kind of connect with the divine and make sure that, it's the same, almost the same as journaling, except that you're getting it out from inside by articulating it to the universe, to the divine, to whatever you believe, and that is actually a great way to start your day. And the universe we live in is an intelligent universe. It does listen, it does respond, but you've got to look out for those signs and wonders. And if you're so deeply depressed, they can pass you by, and you'll be having loads of opportunities in front of you, and you'll be thinking you won't even be seeing it. So it's really important to be able to be aware, self-aware, and know when opportunity is coming knocking at your door. But those are 3 ways I would say to keep your vibe high. You can also have a salt bath, which is really good at getting rid of negative energy, and that will lift your vibration. You've had that, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of questions I want to ask you on that. So the first one is, how do you know when you've actually connected with the divine? Like, what feedback is going on in your emotional and physical field for you to know that? And my other question is, how can you recognize signs? Because I know you talk about them, and I mean, I'm always noticing signs. I love it. Carl and I sometimes say, well, let's wait and find out the next sign. We're wondering, what should we do today? Let's see what signs we get. But tell me about your signs. So there's 2 questions. How do you know when you divine, and how do you recognize signs?
Good question. I think knowing when you've connected with the divine is when you feel lighter, you feel better. It's all about how you feel, actually. So if you've ever read The Secret, and I'm sure lots of people have read The Secret, that is all about how you feel. And it does say very clearly in that book that if you're not sending out the right sort of radio waves, I think they're explaining it like that, then basically the universe is not mirroring that back to you. I'm going to be sending whatever you send out. If it's a negative vibe, that's what it's going to reflect back to you, and it will just continue to grow and grow and grow. But when you are starting off with the divine, some people I know, they can't even say God because they've had such a strict religious upbringing that they say universe, and that's fine because you know what your intention is. But I think you basically feel it, and you develop your instincts a lot more as well as you go along with it. Some days you might say it and you just don't know if your prayer's been heard or your intention's been heard, but then suddenly it will manifest. Or you've been thinking about a certain person. A lot of us can recognize this, and suddenly that person will call you, and it was like, oh, I was just thinking about you like 2 minutes ago, and I haven't heard from you for about a year. So I think the first thing to recognize is you just feel a lot better. The second thing people can do if they want to is get a little altar for themselves. I've got one which a friend of mine actually made for me, and it's beautiful.
Wow.
And it's got a picture of Archangel Michael in the middle, which she put on it. She's decorated it beautifully. And then I've got all my guides. I've done these little laminates of all my guides on it. And there's one of some of the Indian guides as well, like the goddess Lakshmi. And then there's Lord Ganesh, the elephant god, and then there's Mother Mary, she's there, and there's a few others which people wouldn't have heard of, and there's a red Indian native chief. And what happens is when you start to regularly every day, even for 5 minutes, if you light a candle there and you start to regularly do your little bit, like, say your prayer, do your protection prayer, you're going to start to notice that energy lifting you up, and it literally follows you around your house, and it will bless and protect your house. And then when you go out, it will also follow you with, and it's like anything, it's like learning to play the violin or the piano or anything like that. You start to get better and better with practice, and you feel the change, and you start to see these signs and wonders manifest, because you're opening up that gateway to your spirituality, and you're stepping out of the zone of 3D, I guess, of being just stuck in the matrix and just looking at the television and just going out for just accepting everything at face value. And then you start to realize that miracles are very real, that things do happen to people, that we still have our challenges, but in the middle of that, you might suddenly see a beautiful white feather floating down. That's my sign, and I always see that. And when we saw a beautiful white feather a few months ago on our doorstep, we were having a really hard time. We were getting psychically attacked by someone, came out the front door, and there was a beautiful big white feather. And I was like, wow, if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is, waiting for us on the doormat. So I would urge people, those, you might say that's coincidence, but I'm telling you, as you start to build your faith and you develop where you're going, and you're walking with the divine energy, with the energy of your loved ones who may have passed over, who may be your guides, you're going to start to open up those doors to miracles. And you'll start to see different number formations, like 4444, things like that. Those are signs that you're on the right path. They're guidance from your angels, your guides, that you're following the right route. I mean, that's what I always see 2222. I don't know why. Every time I look at the clock, it's 2222.
Yeah, I often see my birthday, which is 2012. But of course, back in 2012, everyone was saying, "Oh, we're going to all ascend in 2012 as well." And it was, right in between our birthdays, wasn't it? It's supposed to be the 21st of December.
Yeah, it was the Mayan calendar and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
It was like 2012. It's my birthday, and I was like, "Ooh." That's a really good explanation. And what I really like about that is, when I've been in contact with people from different backgrounds and spiritualities, when I lived in Asia, and now I'm living in Portugal, which is predominantly Catholic, one thing I notice is that people often do have altars, or they have walls with photos of loved ones or their spiritual gods, and their guides, their angels, and I love it. When I was about 14, I learnt crystal healing from a lovely lady who had never had children, and she was my nan's age, and she had this in her healing room, she had this, which was bright green, by the way. It was painted bright green, like sort of open heart color.
Heart chakra. Yeah.
And she just had lots of photos. One wall was completely crammed full of photos of deities, and
Wow.
yes, really beautiful. Yeah, that's a really great.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and she was as well. She was just remarkable. I think about her.
She's passed away now, or she's still alive?
Yeah, she's passed away. She's very special.
She might be one of your guides, Louisa.
Oh, I always feel her.
There you go. That's what I mean. They never leave us. It's literally like they go into another room. Of course, it's sad because physically they've gone, but they do never leave us. And I think it's really important. For what a lot of people have said to me is that they've started to develop that side of themselves, in the sense of they're sitting around. One other thing you can do, actually, if you want to connect with your guides, is you can look into a candle flame, and you can really focus on the flame, like even set a timer for about maybe 20 minutes or 10 minutes, and really just focus. And that's kind of the bridge between you and them. And at some point, you can actually start to see the face of maybe someone who's passed away in the actual flame. You can start to see that. It does take focus, and it does take a little bit of time. But once you do that, you know that you're developing your spirituality in a really positive way. And I know a number of people who have done that. So that's another tip you can do if you are trying to connect with a loved one. And just keep yourself calm, take a few deep breaths, go into a deep meditation. It's even better if you do that after a salt bath, because you've cleansed your chakras, so to speak, and then you can do that.
Well, you just pre-answered my next question, which was how
sorry, I'm getting psychically tuning in.
That's okay. Maybe you can answer the next question before I ask you. But my next question was actually going to be, what about meditation? How does that activate the chakras? Because you meditate and you do guided meditations, don't you? So
I do,
tell me a little
yeah.
bit about those.
Yeah, so meditation, and there's so many different levels of meditation. So obviously there's people who do lots of different meditations who are starting off with meditation. So that's all about breathing and relaxation and suspending your thoughts just for those 15 minutes or whatever you can do. And it's a battle sometimes because you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh my God, what am I having for dinner again? Or who do I need to call? What do I need to do? So to tap into your chakra energies, and I think there's about 114 chakras in total. I'd need to double check that. There's loads, but the 7 main ones, and chakra means Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, it actually means wheel, right? So they are wheels of energy that are on the 7 main parts of our body, and starting from the crown, and then the third eye, which is where the Hindu ladies and the gentlemen have their mark there. And then there's the throat, there's the heart, the solar plexus, which is why people might get butterflies in their stomach and things like that. And then there's the sacral, which is 2 inches below the belly button, and that's orange. That's all to do with creativity and sexuality, all that stuff. And then you have the root one, which is the base of the spine, and that's a very powerful one because a lot of people, because of COVID, have had, the COVID and the pandemic, have had lots of issues with the root energy chakras, which is to be expected because that's the foundation of the house. And being furloughed or losing your job or family issues or security issues, all that stuff's just come up. So for a lot of people, what they thought was a foundation was actually a house of cards. And so when you meditate a little bit deeper than the relaxation and breathing, when you bring your chakra energies in, you open up your chakras and you start to feel what's going on in every individual chakra, you can pick up what is going on, and you can feel either really sad, very joyful or elated. You can pick up if you've got physical issues related to any organ in that particular chakra. But obviously this is more of a sort of intermediate level meditation, I would say. But I would definitely urge people to do it. If you feel confident doing it, then definitely do it. When I finish doing them, I tend to just see it as if my chakra's closing down again. It's obviously not going to completely close because otherwise we won't be alive. But the reason we close it down a bit is because when we go out then on the street, obviously not in lockdown, but now things are opening up. If you go back out on the street, you might walk past someone or brush past someone who's got a very negative energy around them in their aura, and that can actually go straight into your chakra. So it's good to just imagine it as a rose or something just gently closing, or a lock going down, or a door closing. So you know that you're back in alignment when you go out. You're robust, So
Yeah.
I would definitely urge people to meditate on that. See what you pick up. It's fascinating.
Yes, and I think humans are predisposed to really enjoy rainbows, aren't they? To love rainbows.
Yes,
Magical
they
about
are.
rainbows. And when we're looking at all the colours and understanding the colours, there is there's just a connection. Yeah, and of course,
Rainbows are very, very much. Yeah, I agree with you, Louisa. They're just a sign of good luck and hope. And there's always that thing about pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And what does that mean? For me, whenever I see a rainbow, I just feel like it's a sign from the universe, and it's really beautiful to see it. And I have a rainbow bridge meditation, which I do regularly, which I wrote myself, and it is a way of people connecting on the rainbow bridge. So I guide them to the bridge, and they have a guide or an angel who takes them over, or someone who's passed over often appears, and they walk on the bridge and they heal themselves. It's a healing one. It's normally to do with the heart energy center. We open up that heart chakra, and they get healing on the bridge, and then they come out the other side. The guide can't come with them, but it's a beautiful meditation. And I tend to repeat that one every month or every 6 weeks because people love it. And they're always texting me and saying, oh, I saw my grandmother or my auntie who died 15 years ago. And it's like, great, you guys are really getting it. And so meditation is, just relax with it. I think the more you relax, the more you're going to get out of it. The more you try to think, I'm going to meet my guide, you'll probably not meet anyone. But if you actually just relax, it's going to come to you.
Yeah, definitely. So we've spoken about chakras, and of course all the chakras are aligned with the colors of the rainbow as well, and rainbows. And we're really talking about energy management systems. Why do you think it's important for us to manage our energy and to be more aware of it?
Because if you don't manage your energy, someone else will manage it for you. It's really that it's really that simple. I mean, I think what does energy management even mean? So me and my marketing guy, we did who I was working with. I'm not anymore, but we done a little Facebook sponsored ad about negative energy, and we did a little booklet which I wrote myself about 5 ways on how to cleanse yourself from negative energies, right? And it got so many people feeding back to us. It was just like a little test thing. We thought we put it out there. Let's see what people say. And it was really amazing how much feedback we got. We got about 50 shares from that one post that was advertised, sponsored. And we had a lot of people coming back and saying, oh, please tell me, how do I get rid of negative energy? What do I need? So people do know what it is. They do know that they're feeling down in the dumps, or they're feeling unnatural to who they usually would be every day. And sometimes there's no clear explanation from it. A lot of the time we tend to take on other people's thoughts, or we take on other people's auras or other people's energies, and we wear it around us like a cloak. So if you don't cleanse your energy every day, I do it every day in front of my altar, and other ways. But if you don't cleanse your energy every day, you're basically going to be having a huge problem down the line. And it's kind of like brushing your teeth, Louisa. If you don't brush your teeth every day, you get plaque. And when you get plaque and it's bad enough, you have to go to the dentist because you're going to have issues with your teeth. And it's the same with energy. If you do not cleanse your energy, then you do, and it builds up, and then it can actually get you to the point where you just have a breakdown, or you're really suffering and you're depressed all the time and you can't get yourself out of that zone of depression. So one of the best ways, as we were talking about earlier, is having a salt bath, actually, with like Himalayan salts, or salts is a great cleanser to just clear everything off. It's amazing.
That was a really great analogy, actually. The teeth cleaning one, because we all do clean our teeth, or I'd be a bit shocked to find that grown-ups don't clean their teeth every day. But
that would be weird.
just the thought of like going out and not having clean teeth is, yeah. So that's great. Thank you. That's very useful.
Okay.
How does, got one more question that I just want to kind of start rounding it up. How does meditation expand spirituality? Like you've obviously been on your spiritual journey for quite some time, and obviously you're talking about meditation, and you're also talking about keeping your vibe high and looking after your energy. But you were talking about guides and spirituality and signs and stuff. How do people expand into that? What's the what steps would you recommend for people who want to expand their level of spirituality?
The very first step towards expanding your spirituality is self-awareness, actually. And it's when you develop that self-awareness inside yourself, it's like you suddenly think, well, there's got to be more to life. Sometimes it takes a tragedy to trigger that off, unfortunately. For a lot of people, they might have a death in the family and they're more curious to find out more. I mean, when I do my readings, I'm actually really surprised at how many different people come to me from different walks of life. I mean, some of them are, there was an author, there's people who just have normal jobs, there are people who are so practical. There was a lawyer the other day who didn't believe me when I said to him, you've got a lot of negative energy on you, and I actually think it's witchcraft. I said to him, I actually think it's witchcraft. He was like, well, this is weird. For the last 9 years, I haven't been able to get anything right. None of my property that I'm trying to do is selling. My work is going down the pan. I'm constantly depressed. I said, you've got a problem. There's something wrong. And I checked it out with 2 teams who I work with, one here and one in Thailand. And I was right. And he had 3 really bad spells done on him about 9 years ago. And it was still coming out. It was still affecting him. But see, that was the first step that he took. He didn't believe me when I said, you've got witchcraft on you. I'm pretty blunt with it, because it's your time. You're paying me for reading. I need to tell you what I'm picking up. What you want to do with it then is up to you. And I will try to guide you or be compassionate, all the rest of it. but I'm not going to sit there and have a fairy tale reading with you if it's not the case. And I told him exactly what it was. He actually went and spoke to the people in Thailand, realized that it was true, and he started his own journey of raising his self-awareness. He's now started to meditate every day, and through his meditation, he will get a breakthrough. It might take him some months, it might take him some years, it might take him a few days, I don't know. But I'm guiding him through it. The team in Thailand are guiding him through it. And I think for anybody wishing to start off with that journey, just try a little bit of meditation. Even try something from Headspace or Calm, just a very generic thing, and see how it goes. And you can always book yourself in for a reading with me or with someone else. We can see what's going on, where you might be stuck in your life. Often when people are stuck, they can't meditate. That's true, because you just can't focus. Your attention's all over the place. So you've got to you're going there instead of listening. Everything's happening outside your head. It's not internal. And so once you start to take that journey internally, doing some of the simple deep steps that I was talking about before, like walking in nature or breathing deeply, even setting a timer for 2 minutes, taking a breath in for 4, holding for 4, and releasing for 8. Even if you set your timer for 2 minutes, if you're ever feeling stressed or anxious, that will do wonders just to immediately ground you in the moment, and that's when you can meditate, because then you put yourself back on that level where you're okay again. And so that's the first step. The other thing I would say, there's plenty of really good YouTube and self-help videos out there. You can go to my website, Elevate Your Inner Self, that's my Facebook page, and you can join. There's plenty of tips on there, plenty of good speakers who come and talk about lots of these sort of topics. So join a channel that you feel comfortable joining, that you can grow from at your own pace.
Brilliant. So if somebody is listening to you and thinking, yeah, I actually really fancy connecting with Hana, I think she's going to help me on my journey, what's the best way for them to get hold of you? Through your Facebook page, or do you have a preference?
Yeah, you can go to my Facebook page, which is Elevate Your Inner Self on Facebook, or you can also go to my website, which is www.inspiringmypath.com. And you can contact me that way. I think there's my email address on there and everything, so you can contact me that way. And so my contact details are all on there. I would suggest those 2 ways are probably the best ways for us to reach out. And there's always we can do a discovery call and see what you're after. And it may mean that you've got something really easy, which can be resolved in a reading or a couple of readings, or you might need soul-to-soul mentoring sessions, which are deeper. And that includes a reading, but it also includes a tailor-made meditation to look at what's really going on, and then some mentoring as well, and all the rest of it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Right. One last thing then. If there was one thing that you wanted everyone that listens to this today to take away with them, what would that one thing be? Like a bit of advice, or what one thing would it be?
Oh my God, there's so many. I guess the one thing would be I'm going to go back to the hoarding thing. And the one thing would be, if you're feeling overwhelmed with emotion and you just know there's a block, right? You know something isn't right, whether it's hoarding or whether it's any other form of addiction or drinking or, shopping, which is a form of hoarding as well, or whatever it is. I would say if you feel something isn't right on you, trust your instinct. It isn't right. And I would say reach out to somebody and get help, because you're here for a purpose. All of us are here for a purpose. Your sole purpose needs to be polished so that you know why you're on planet Earth. And if you're not reaching that, you're not on your life path, and you need to find out what that is, because you're here for a reason. That's what I would say.
Wow. Boom. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you so much for taking your time today to or spending this time to chat with me and our audience about spirituality. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great. I really loved it.
Wow, how cool was that? So we got some really top advice from Hana there. And what I really liked about it was how sort of like grounded and straightforward Hana is in her advice. It's very much about, being aware of your energy, really being aware of what surrounds you and the resources that you've got around you. Giving your problems up to God or source or divinity, whatever you want to call it, the universe, and then kind of listening in. And I really loved her amazing analogy of, if you're going to clean your teeth every day, you should clean your energy down as well. So I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed it, then please do tune in for another Feel Good conversation that will be coming up. I'm releasing these definitely every Sunday, and I've got some great guests, some really, really awesome guests, from neuroscientists to people that deal with metaphysical healing, actually in the wards of hospitals. And just earlier today, I was also talking to somebody who is a breatharian. So, there's so many cool topics coming up. So I'm very excited. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us here today. If you like this, then please do like, subscribe, and share. And just stay tuned. Let us know what you think in the comments. And if there's anything that I can bring onto this channel in future episodes, just let me know. I'll be sure to do that. Anyway, take care. Lots of love to you from Portugal. Bye for now.